and Sydney on BBC
Radio Jersey, the Channel Islands.
Now, long-standing Tim and Sydney fans will know that actually the person behind our mix this evening, Josh Tissier, actually did one for us back in January. So,
wow.
Extra Tim and Sydney points to you if you actually remember that and knew that.
I still can't believe that January was actually that long ago, but I mean, it really was. So, yeah, well done if you do remember it. It wasn't a few weeks ago.
Plenty of time, exactly 4 months since we last caught up with Josh. So we asked him what he's been up to since he was last on Tim and Sydney.
I've been doing a lot of DJing at Fusion, of course, and been making a lot of music. Mostly been making remixes of popular songs because I think they're a good way to grow like a bigger audience.
And have you been playing those remixes that you've been doing in your sets recently?
Yeah, and they've actually been working really well because it's something that everybody knows the words to, and sometimes like they have more energy than the originals as well.
How do you sort of gauge a reaction from an audience when you're playing live? Is it just by like how they're dancing, or do people come up to you and say, "Oh yeah, I really enjoyed that song there," or how do you gauge their reaction?
Yeah, it's a combination of both. I think from experience you kind of learn within the first 10 seconds if you've played a wrong song, and then if you've got enough time you can quickly swap it out with one that you know is going to work straight away.
How do you decide then which songs you want to remix? Do you literally just hear them and think like, oh, hang on, I've got an idea?
That's a good question, actually. I try and remix songs that are in the top 40, so that way you kind of get the most bang for your buck then, because obviously a lot of people were searching for them, or other DJs are searching for them to play in their DJ sets. They don't always work out. Some happen like within sort of a few hours, and then others you really struggle with and eventually give up just because they're not going anywhere.
You were saying there you like to remix sort of popular songs. Some songs that come out are obviously absolutely massive when they come out. How do you know that you've sort of made a song better? Do you get a feeling you're like, oh yeah, that's better than the original? Or sometimes you're like, oh, actually no, that can just go straight in the recycling bin.
I don't think any of the remixes I've done are necessarily better than the originals, but they're more suited to actually like the nightclub atmosphere, I would say.
Speaking of nightclubs, you're a DJ predominantly in Guernsey, where we've had a lot of places closing down. Have you noticed, has that sort of been apparent in your sets sort of thing?
Yeah, I'd say the nightlife in Guernsey kind of has dipped a little bit since I started about 6 years ago. But yeah, you just have to play to the crowd really and adapt on the fly.
You're remixing a lot of sort of current songs, as you say, but you're also producing your own material, like My Gravity, which you featured in the last set. But tell me a bit about that, because you've kind of re-released the song now, haven't you? Have you made some changes to the original song?
So yeah, I released the original song 1st of March this year. It went really well. Lots of my producer friends really liked it as well, and they gave me compliments. And then a few that I'm really close with, I just gave them the opportunity to remix it themselves. So they went away. About a month later, they all came back, and yeah, I really liked what they come up with. So we decided to put the top 3 remixes out as like a remix album, and they got released yesterday, and we're now promoting them and stuff. So it's going well.
That is so cool. What's it like getting your song back but remixed?
Yeah, actually, it's the first time it's happened before, so it's a strange feeling because obviously I gave them the parts of the song that I've done and the original vocal, and it's really interesting to see what other people come up with, because we kind of had the same material to work with, but we all have like a different way of working and different sound. Yeah, it's interesting that all 3 remixes are totally different from my original, and they're all different from each other as well, and just totally different vibe. It's really cool.
Josh Tissier speaking there, who's provided tonight's exclusive half-an-hour mix.
Tim
And Sydney.
Under 10 minutes time before we play you that exclusive mix from Josh Tissier, but we like to catch up with the DJ behind the mix before we play it out.
Yeah, so we've been hearing that Josh actually makes his own remixes and his own stuff. But how exactly does he gauge the success of these songs?
It's mostly off how many streams it gets on like YouTube, Spotify, Apple Music. Because luckily nowadays we're living in an age where you can release music yourself, and you've got the reporting tools to see how many people have listened to your song, where they've listened to it, like which countries, which cities. You can really drill down, so you can get a feel for like which song performs better and how many followers you gain from one song compared to another as well.
Have you got any random places around that you've picked up loads of traction, like Albania or something?
Well, I think Spotify, it's like in about 65 countries or something. So there's obviously more countries I'm more popular in than others. But weirdly, it's Germany. And by quite some way as well. And I don't really know why. Yeah.
Would you ever go over and do a set in Germany then?
If somebody wanted me to, that would be good.
For all your fans out in Germany, they're calling for it, definitely. Let's talk about your mix that you provided for us tonight, because you've done a lot of what we've been talking about. You've remixed a lot of your tracks that are currently in the top 40. Was that always the plan when you were going to come back and do another mix for us, to do that sort of thing?
Yeah, so I wanted to do a mix of remixes that I've done of popular songs, and then other remixes of popular songs that have been working really well in the club, and they're sort of like my peak time songs. That they're kind of my go-to songs that I know always work, and personal favourites as well.
So anybody who likes a boogie, I don't know where that came from, at the main time of the set, they're going to enjoy listening to this.
Yeah, I think so, yeah. It's kind of quite a melodic set. It's known as progressive house. Kind of similar to trance, but I think a bit more commercial and a bit more accessible.
Yeah, and you finish off the set with your original in there. Is that the one that we've heard before, or is that a remix of your song My Gravity?
That's the remix. That's actually my favourite remix of the three that came out, and that's by Nico Bray, who is actually from Germany.
Oh, he's from Germany?
Yep.
He must be one of your fans out there.
Tim and Sydney on BBC
Radio Jersey.